So good afternoon. Here we go again. Good afternoon. Good lunch, whatever, brunch. Common sense and logic are coming to have a sniff about, okay? Now, it is not my common sense and logic. It's just general common sense and logic. If everybody understood the value of using logic to work things out, we'd live in a different world. If everybody had even just half a quota of the recommended common sense, we'd be living in a different world. Speed of light, the photon. First of all, we have to deal with one thing. LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory, does not prove the speed of light, does not prove the photon. GPS does not prove the speed of light, and it does not prove the photon. What else do we have? We can have LiDAR. Laser range finding does not prove the speed of light or the photon. The list continues. The redshift in the universe does not prove the speed of light is 299792458 meters per second. It just does not prove a thing. It doesn't. I'm saying that because we have something missing. And nobody has an explanation for it. Not a logical one. There is no logical explanation. This is where common sense and logic would like to have a word. You cannot say that nobody has a logical answer for how a solar eclipse can play out with photons. You cannot say that and then carry on and describe and explain in detail the rest of the universe. It looks a bit sus, if you know what I mean. It does. Well, it's obviously sus, isn't it? It defies logic and it defies common sense. It defies logic that anybody would even consider skipping the solar eclipse that we have on our doorstep to then go and tell us about planets and stars and whatever's billions and billions of light years away, and light years do not exist. It is not acceptable, right? It is not. People will be saying, what has it got to do with you? It's logic and common sense. It isn't logical to not be able to explain a solar eclipse that is on our doorway with the speed of light that has been nudged along by Albert Einstein in 1905, knowing that there were solar eclipses in 1905. Now, it's not as if I'm seeing something and you're seeing something else and somebody else. We all see the very same thing. What we see is the sun behind the moon's shadow, and you're stood in the sweet spot on planet Earth. Now, common sense, there's nowhere to go with this. It's an insult to people's intelligence. It really is. To think that everybody would just go, yeah, now whatever, we don't need an explanation for the local solar eclipse. It's just good to know that you can explain everything else in the universe, just not this one right here. It's a minor issue. It's a major issue. It's obvious what's happening. I have spent most of the comments over the last week have been with people who think that their explanations for the redshift is, listen, you don't need the eclipse down here to prove anything. There's obviously photons because of the redshift of the universe. Again, I don't think so. It doesn't work like that. You cannot make claims about a speed of light that exists throughout the universe and tell us how far away things are, what they're doing, where they've been, and where they're going, all at 299,792 kilometers per second. When, for one on our doorstep, there's no explanation for how finite light can work, the delay. Now, it isn't only obvious that there is no delay, it's really quite obvious why nobody has a logical explanation for it. Because there isn't one, because it's absolute light. Now, that kind of creates a bit of a problem for the rest of the universe, doesn't it? Whoever told people that science didn't care about their common sense, wherever this came from, it's one of two. I suppose it could be both of them. Anyway, whoever said that either had no common sense, because nobody with proper common sense would say that, understanding the value of common sense, or they're lying. Would they be both? Somebody lying and they didn't have any common sense? Yeah, or both, right? That's it. That is it. Those are the only kind of people that would say that. Somebody with common sense would not even consider saying science doesn't care about your common sense, because we're born with it. It's an instinct, right? It gets improved along the way, not taken away in the first quarter of our lives. Sacré bleu. So these are facts, okay? Anybody who told you that science didn't care about your common sense, if you had kept your common sense, I wouldn't need to be here. Don't worry, it's just little flies. They don't serve a purpose. They land on shit and they land on your food. It's not much fun. Where was I? Common sense. These things are all not only illogical, but they defy common sense, right? Number one, Galileo. In 1638, before electricity, hundreds of years before electricity, no timekeeping devices, no method, no way of communicating, nothing. A scientist was allegedly pretty smart, but not that smart, because he asked an assistant to go up on a hilltop 2 to 3 kilometers away from the hilltop that he was climbing. And when they got to the top, lanterns, and there were no timekeeping devices, but it is likely that he used a water clock. A water clock. That is what it said. So it's in the middle of the night. He's got an assistant 3 k's down the road, up another hill. No method of communicating. He's got... I have trouble saying this because who would believe it? Who honestly would believe this rubbish, right? Because it defies common sense and it defies logic. It's an insult to people's intelligence. If it was a disco night, but that disco night was a common sense and logic disco night, Galileo, not tonight, mate. Come back tomorrow night. Tomorrow night's science night. Tonight it's common sense and logic night. Clear off. He doesn't come in because it's an absurdity. He's a scientist, wasn't he? You wouldn't need to go through those motions, surely. Roma, 1675. 0 timekeeping devices, let alone accurate timekeeping devices. Telescopes just falling off of the calendar just then, right? And he noticed a discrepancy in the time that it was taking Io to come out from behind Jupiter. Jupiter, 750,000 kilometers away, right? Massive planet. just over 10 times our diameter, and Io is only 200 kilometers, give or take, bigger than our moon, its diameter. And it's orbiting Jupiter at a distance of 420,000 kilometers. It's not a needle in a haystack, but it wouldn't be the easiest target. Now, I've tried to, how do I work it out? With the telescope I have, I'd struggle with no timekeeping devices. It's not going to happen. It is not going to happen. But he was like just kept noticing it. Yeah, as we kept moving further away from Jupiter, as we orbited the Sun, he noticed the delay. Don't ask us how, right? And then as we came round the other side and approached Jupiter again, got closer, 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 things sped up again. And it was put down to a light delay. And Roma was the first nudge for relativity, right? The first nudge for a light delay. A light delay. Now, which obviously means relativity. See, as far back as then. But we know, because we do have solar eclipses here, every year, maybe you've seen one. There is no light delay. There is obviously no light delay. So it isn't logical to think that there would be a light delay between Jupiter and Io coming out. It would be exactly the same. The shadow would be, it would just all be exactly the same, absolute light. Wherever the moon went, the sun shining behind it, the shadow would bang onto Jupiter. It was coming out from behind Jupiter, so the sun would hit Io straight away. There would be no delay. You wouldn't have seen a delay. It's illogical, highly illogical. So Roma, do you mind going outside? Come on, chop, chop. So outside with Galileo Galilei. That's it, thank you. Christian Huygens in 1690. 1880. That's when electricity came in. 1690, 1790, 1890. We're looking at 190 years before electricity. He came up with the treatise of light, the wave theory of light. Now, listen to this, right? He held that the different points of a wave front or wave crest of light set up an infinitely numerous series of secondary waves. These secondary waves reinforce each other after a time and produce a new wave front. Other secondary waves arise, and these result ultimately in still another wave front. Thus, light is propagated. Now, how does somebody come up with all of that 200 years before electricity, just with the sun and kerosene, oil lamps, that kind of a thing? Now, for those people who think why not? It's purely a lack of common sense. And it is highly illogical that all of a sudden we have people all aiming to work out the speed of light. 1690, 1675, 1638. All absurdities though. Notice that. It's not like there's one that is believable. Not if you use common sense. If you don't use common sense, then anything is believable. He tripped over and worked out the speed of light. He kissed his mum on the cheek and she worked out the speed of light. If you're not going to use logic and common sense, anything goes, doesn't it? Even not worrying about how a solar eclipse, the closest one we have, on our doorstep, mind you, and you skip doing it, there's no logical explanation, but you think you're good to carry on and educate people about the rest of the universe. It's not really Doesn't feel right, does it? It looks like there is no explanation for that. They're hoping that people don't realise that there's no delay, and they'll carry on claiming knowledge that cannot be known, and claiming achievements that haven't been achieved. Some that will never be achieved. Parker Solar Probe, 5 sun diameters from the sun. I don't think so. I just don't think so. So Huygens, chop chop, out you go. That's it, good boy. Bradley, 1728. Stellar aberration. Now this is where anything goes, doesn't it? Anything goes. Anything goes. Stellar aberration. We have to read up on this one. I wouldn't want to get one of the words wrong. I wouldn't want to lead people down the wrong route with a wrong word. You can't make a wrong word in this. It wouldn't matter. Right. James Bradley. This is about stellar aberration in 1728. James Bradley, an English physicist, estimated the speed of light in a vacuum to be around 301,000 kilometers per second. He used stellar aberration to calculate the speed of light. Stellar aberration causes the apparent position of stars to change due to the motion of Earth around the Sun. The apparent, so it causes the apparent position of stars to change because of the Earth's speed around the Sun. So we're looking at 3 stars in the night sky. Right now, word for word, you're looking at those 3 stars, and then you hear stellar aberration to calculate the speed of light. Stellar aberration causes the apparent position of stars to change due to the motion of Earth around the Sun. Now, we're looking at 3 stars. Is that the apparent position? Like, have they changed position because of Earth's speed around the Sun when we're looking at them? Because it's stellar aberration. This is what he used. So how would he know? No instruments, just quick glance up there. Maybe Roma fed him some info, gave him a bit of a piggyback. But the absurdity starts here. Stellar aberration is approximately the ratio of the speed that the Earth orbits the Sun to the speed of light. Now that right there, it could have been a different language. It doesn't make any sense. But there it is. This happens a lot. All of that, it's ridiculous. It didn't happen. Of course it didn't happen. How could it happen? How? You don't just look up at the stars and go, well, because of Earth's speed around the Sun, I'm thinking that the stars have moved position. I can calculate the speed of light. It defies common sense and logic. And when you look at the previous ones, you start to get a picture. Common sense and logic's all over this. It's so obvious, right? So, Bradley, do you mind dropping off? Fit so. This is testing. Fit so. I'm going to do it over here because we are going to have a go at the, what is it called again? The Sagnac theory as well. So I thought I'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Right? So we have now Fizeau in 1849. Okay, this is 30 years before electricity. he had a spinning wheel, right? And it had 100 teeth. So 25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 50, 75, 100, right? So it would be attached to something, have a little handle coming out, right? And now I'm going to go and read. First of all, I will put a mirror over here. That's 5 kilometers away, okay? Fine. So, 30 years before electricity, it's 5 miles, right? It's 8 kilometers one way, so 16 back, 10 miles, right? Round trip. Now let's read. Right, where are we? Hippolyte Louis Fizeau, 313,300 kilometers per second. A French physicist, Fizeau shone a light between the teeth of a rapidly rotating toothed wheel. A mirror more than 5 miles away reflected the beam back through the same gap between the teeth of the wheel. There were over 100 teeth in the wheel. The wheel rotated at hundreds of times a second. Therefore, a fraction of a second was easy to measure. Now, I'm reading this word for word. Luckily, it sounds like it's written for 7, 8-year-olds, doesn't it? Which it's good to get them to understand easy. Wheel was rotating 100 times a second. That kind of a thing. 30 years before electricity, he had a light. He was spinning this at hundreds of times per second. Like, God, it takes the sun 4.6 seconds to radiate this light. Anyway, and he shot a beam through a tooth. It hit the mirror, came back, and came in through the same tooth. How does that happen? How does that happen? I tell you what, 30 years before electricity, how does that happen? I tell you what, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. See where we're going? We have a solar eclipse on our doorstep that nobody can explain, right? These flies are really gonna... They're just annoying. They really are annoying me. I need to get some proper spray instead of the Glen 20. I think they're getting high. They're getting aggressive. Right. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. What's wrong with people? You honestly believe that 30 years before electricity, somebody bounced a light through the teeth of a spinning wheel hundreds of times per second? It bounced off of a mirror over 5 miles away and came back through the same tooth. And then listen. Of the wheel. There were over 100 teeth in the wheel. The wheel rotated at hundreds of times a second. Therefore, a fraction of a second was easy to measure. If you cannot see how stupid this is, it's because of the lack of common sense thing that you gave up. You must understand that. I don't even need to read the rest. There's no point. Fizeau, out. I don't care if you haven't finished your beer. Get the out. And Richardson and Morley, I don't even bother with. I read it once, and I just don't want to go back there. It's stupid. It is. It's. So there's no need for me to even go close to that one. 1905, Albert Einstein. No, don't get him a beer. 1905, he calls the photon relativity, special relativity, one first and then one after, not long after. Now, why would he have done that? We've got a solar eclipse on our doorstep, and if you have seen a solar eclipse, I have to keep saying it because you'll notice that the sun is directly behind the moon. There's no delay. Now that can only happen with absolute light. We've asked for an explanation with finite light, been a couple of years now, and still no one has come up with one. Smoking gun, kind of. The explanations that do come forward are all different and they're all wrong. Am I an authority on solar eclipses all of a sudden? Well, I'm using logic and common sense to work these things out. We have the information, like, if the sun turned off, nobody would know for 8 minutes and 20 seconds. That's part of the armory, part of the weapons we use. Because during a solar eclipse, you heard Mr. Tyson, you can see the sun through the little mountains on the moon. They're called the beads or something. Just in that last moment, you are seeing the sun behind the moon. Now, if the sun went out in that moment, why would it take 8 minutes and 20 seconds for people to realise? What you would find is everything would go dark and cold straight away, because the moon is directly in front of the sun. We know this because the sun is directly behind the moon. You can see the corona. You're seeing it in real time. You cannot be seeing it in real time if you're stood in the photons that it launched 8 minutes and 20 seconds earlier in real time. There is no gap between the photons that you're standing in, the shadow, and the sun that radiated those photons. It didn't. The two of them are one. You cannot separate the light that the light source is radiating from the light source. If it goes out, the light disappears. It's common sense. It is common sense. It's a shame that they talked you out of yours. Nowhere to go. There is nowhere to go. It's ridiculous. So Einstein, the chance, it's like the Galileo thing. Would Galileo have been stupid enough, oh, another fly in my coffee, would he have been stupid enough to trek up a hill and tell? He wouldn't have. He wouldn't have. It's just a lack of common sense. It's believing absurdities. And they're getting bigger and bigger, because once you get one going, you'll believe the next and the next. And look where we are now. Atlas, Parker Solar Probe, knocking asteroids off course. Guys. So Einstein, I'm afraid, the photon, where's the evidence for a photon? There is none. And for those people who think gravitational waves, GPS, all of that stuff, and Mars communications, something we need to address, you can't really start claiming all of those things without giving a logical explanation for a solar eclipse. It's illogical. It looks like that you're lying. It looks like you've made it up. And that's why there is no explanation for a solar eclipse. But when you get away from where we can all see, all of a sudden you know everything. But back here, where we've got the sun and the moon, you don't know how it works. There's no explanation. It looks a bit sus. It really does. And common sense and logic are all over it. Smell a rat. It's obvious. It's a lie. Now, for those of you who think common sense sucks and that logic is not something worth adhering to, they have both trashed all of these without breaking a sweat. Yeah, but there is no buts. It gets tiring, right? The beauty about common sense and logic is it doesn't matter what the subject is. If you know how to use them, you know how to think. It doesn't matter what the situation is. You can just go bang, bang, bang. Didn't happen, could happen, probably not. Bang. Logic and common sense, they're like scalpels. Every time. Something is either logical or it is not logical. If it isn't logical and it defies common sense, buckle up, Dorothy, because something is out. Something can be illogical, but can still be a thing. Something can defy common sense and still just be a thing. But to defy common sense and defy logic and still be a thing, very unlikely. Very unlikely. Especially not this, because it's almost like the perfect crime, isn't it? Big sun. Everybody's geared up watching. Oh, look at that! But there's no explanation from any of the people who are teaching this stuff, but they know everything else yonder. What does it look like? It's obvious what it looks like. It's one thing after another. It's not like, oh, that was good, that was good, that was good. That one, the Bradley thing with the stellar aberration and the position of the stars shifting. No, they're all caca. All of them. Ridiculous. Every single one of them. Einstein, raus! Go on. Thank you. The Sagnac effect. Shut up, you two. Something, again, so stupid. It's so stupid, right? This is logic and common sense talking, not me. Look, I'm going to have a little read up. I'm going to have a quick Google. Right? Yeah, where are we? Here we go. Right. Now, the Sagnac effect. The Sagnac effect, also called Sagnac interference, named after French physicist Georges Sagnac, is a phenomenon encountered in interferometry that is elicited. The Sagnac effect is used in optical gyroscopes by sending two beams of light in opposite directions in a fiber optic coil or mirror-directed path. The Sagnac effect is a phase shift observed between two beams of light traversing in opposite directions the same close path around a rotating object. A description of this experiment is obtained within the context of general relativity. In this context, the effect provides an operational definition of rotation. What is the application of the Sagnac effect? This effect has found important applications in laser gyroscopes and metrology. The Sagnac effect, for example, helps in synchronizing global navigation systems that are affected by the Earth's rotation. What a load of rubbish. Now, it is rubbish, right? That just keeps on going. You can read and read about what they've done, but we have the books. We have the books. 1961, 65, 71, 72, 75, 76, 79, 81, 84, 86, and 93, and a couple of minor ones mixed in. And I checked 3 of the science and the future, right? 1978 book, the 1988 and the 1998. Just randomly picked them out. And of course, Sagnac is not there. So, the question, why is it that it is all over there, digital, right? But there is not one single mention of it in any of the encyclopedias. And don't forget, this is 1913. So it would have been around, obviously, at the same time as the rest of the boys, right? Of course it would have been around with the rest of the boys. Galileo, Romer, Huygens, Bradley, Fizeau, Michelson, Einstein, all of them. They're all in the books. They're lies, but they're in the books. Why is it that something so intertwined with relativity, why is it not in any of the books? It's along the same lines as why is there no explanation for a solar eclipse with finite light? There is no explanation because there is no finite light. He's not in the books because he doesn't exist. It never happened. It's so obvious. It's common sense and logic thing. It's logical reasoning with everything else that we've got. It's like a trail. It's like two bulls have gone through a china shop. The absurdities are insane. Not one of these passes a pub test, but everybody believes it. And everybody is totally fine with there not being a logical explanation for how a solar eclipse can work right in front of our faces with finite light. Everybody's cool with it. But let's believe everything else they say about the universe. It's I don't know what to say. But it's rubbish, all of it. It's rubbish. Now, relativity. 1675, Olaus Roma. There is no light delay, we know that because of our own solar eclipses. It wouldn't be very logical to think that a couple of planets up, there's this delay. It's not going to happen. It's obvious. It's an absolute light. So, the light delay, the initial push for relativity, because that's what it was, it obviously didn't happen. But Huygens, no, he didn't go for the speed. He went for the theory, the wave-like theory, before power, before anything. Bradley, well, ever so clever. Fitzo, genius. Not interested in those two. Einstein, what he was thinking, nobody will ever know. Well, he wasn't thinking because your average Joe. This is another thing. Why has nobody brought this up until now? It makes you wonder if it really was 1905. Why is it that I, in my shed, just using basic common sense and logic, have just pulled these out and am nailing them to a cross kind of a thing? Why hasn't anybody else? Why these things are such an insult to people's intelligence that it's crazy. Anyway, the Sagnac effect. In case you hadn't heard, that was one of the questions I was actually going to ask people. Has anybody ever been in a position where they've had to ring a friend? Ooh, yo, can you get me the Sagnac equation? I have a donut here with two lights going separate different ways and I'm about to spin it and I just want to know. It's so stupid again that it begs belief that so many people just don't question it. But then again, you don't have the books, do you? That is a big difference. How would people question something so stupid if they don't have books? They can't. The only way people would know that was rubbish if they didn't have books would be to know from the beginning that it's all rubbish, and then you just follow using common sense and logic, being able to differentiate between what's real and what isn't, and between what's possible and what isn't, as you go. Once you master it, it's easy. Not much gets past, not logic and common sense. So you have a donut-shaped thing, like one of those fluorescent round bulbs, two compartments, top and the bottom. So you've got light going that way. It's so stupid, I can't believe I'm doing it. And then you've got light going that way. Boring until it's going to spin clockwise, we go for. So the whole thing spins. You've got light spinning in the direction of the spin, and you've got one spinning against the spin. Now, whatever. One goes faster, one goes slower. It doesn't matter because it isn't a thing. It's been fed into the mix. We know this because the rest of it is obviously rubbish and it's not in any of the books. And the books are important. Poor you guys who just don't have books. You rely on digital everything. You will never know what it was like back in the day, which is why some of us do what we're doing now, because it isn't fair that you don't know. It isn't fair that they're lying to you. It isn't fair that they're telling you that science doesn't care about your common sense. It isn't fair that they are not explaining how a solar eclipse can work with finite light, the one that you have just out there. It's a bit strange, isn't it? I know people defend this stuff, but you can see what a mess logic and common sense has made out of this lot, and it's not even trying. It's just so obvious a lie. That'll kind of do it, I reckon. So again, for those of you, it doesn't matter, PhDs, bachelors, it doesn't matter what degrees you have. It's irrelevant, right? It doesn't matter. You have no say. It's not acceptable to think that you can go and explain the rest of the universe, but you can't explain a solar eclipse down here. It's beyond a joke. Somebody had to say something. Where does that happen? Oh no, sorry, don't do this one, but we'll do everything up there. Really? Do you mind just coming back a little bit? All these people, science fairs, telling everybody what the photon does, the little spin that it has, all of this stuff. But solar eclipse, sun, moon, nada, zip, no explanation. And the explanations that are given are by people who, a bit concerned because maybe they've been teaching it, and now it's so obvious that people are going to go, shit, fair cop. So many people all gang up, no, it doesn't matter. We don't need to worry about the solar eclipse that's on home soil. Of course you do. It gives confidence to everybody that you know what you're fucking talking about, doesn't it? Otherwise, it looks like you're lying. Can't work out this one. And there's no explanation for finite light. It's not difficult. I'm following your science. You wouldn't know for 8 minutes and 20 seconds if the sun turned off. Solar eclipse. Looking at the moon, seeing the sun directly behind and thinking, 8 minutes and 20 seconds? If the sun turned off right now, I am pretty sure she goes black and cold. It's so obvious, right? But no, you would not see it. You would not know for 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Another lie and another absurdity. Point. So for those of you who think common sense is a little bit overrated, I totally disagree with you. Common sense and logic play ping pong with this lot all day long. Gets to the stage where people need to assess everything, and this. Somebody's laughed or somebody's pissed off somewhere that you had a good run. It's how the game is played, isn't it? I've not broken any laws or rules. I just see it, you could call it an opinion if you want, but backed up with logic and common sense. Giddy up, anytime science, you don't have a leg to stand on. The amount of absurdities that is science lately. It's just not science. It's really, really, really confronting for me. Everything I hear, I see things for what they are. I know when people are lying. You can see the private little jokes people are having, the popular folk. You can see them laughing. They're laughing at people. It's a disgrace. So, the bottom line, no, you cannot claim you know how everything works when you can't explain how a solar eclipse works. Our solar eclipse works with finite light. It doesn't, it cannot, it has to be absolute. That's kind of where it ends. Those of you who think that your explanations for redshift and yada yada are valid, they're not. Not for me. Common sense and logic. You can't skip the first one and claim everything else. People would be idiots to accept that, wouldn't they? It would be a lack of common sense. That is for me. Let me pause this, and then I'm going to come back and finish. And it was for me. All right. I was literally just about to finish up. I could have just gone. Anyway, doesn't matter. So it's absurdities, logic and common sense. It stinks. It's the stench of something not right, and it's obvious. Cannot explain a solar eclipse here on our doorstep, but you claim to know everything else. All of the methods used, absurdities. The Saganac effect, not in one single book. It's obvious. I suggest common sense comes back, because everybody loves defending this stuff, but I tell you what, it's shocking. It really is. All right, that was just common sense and logic. That wasn't me. So that was just a bit of reflection, and I won't be back tonight, I don't think. I might be, but if I'm not, that should be enough to keep us going. Have I forgotten anything? Oh, did I mention that you cannot use other things like the redshift for evidence of the photon when we have a solar eclipse down here that cannot be explained with finite light? And it cannot, and it's obvious, it's absolute light, which means hasta la vista, baby, if you've got common sense and understand correct reasoning and logic. Otherwise, you're at the mercy of liars and charlatans. Hasta la vista, baby.